Hello everyone, welcome along to our webinar today on teaching online. My name is Mairead O'Connor and I am in Ireland, in the west of Ireland in Galway. I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but it's lovely. And I've been with the TEFL Academy since 2015 and I've been teaching English abroad and online since 2004. Oh my goodness, 20 years. So hopefully I'll have lots of valid, important, useful information for you in our webinar today. As always, we will run through a presentation for the first 30 minutes or so, and the final 30 or 25 minutes will be a big Q&A, all right? So any questions you have about teaching online, any questions you have about anything I say in the presentation, that is your chance, okay? Pop your questions in the chat box and we will have lots of time to go through them all. I also appreciate that you might want to chat to each other and ask each other questions, but I would ask that you try to keep any chat that is not about the topic at hand to a minimum, okay? Because then that will make it easier for me to run through all of the comments and pick out the really valid questions. All right, so that is all of the introductions out of the way. Let's begin. So, as I said, today's webinar is all about teaching English online. We're going to talk about several points in this presentation. We're going to talk about why you might teach English online, how to do it. Yeah, that's pretty important, right? Things to think about before embarking on a teaching online career. We're going to look at some top tips for teaching English online. And then, as I said, we will finish with a Q&A all about teaching online. All right, let's start with the why, okay? Why is there such a demand for online teachers of English? Well, there has been a dramatic increase in online learning in the online English language learning environment. Okay, even before our pandemic, okay, we were noticing this rise, but during and post-pandemic, as you can imagine, there has been an enormous surge in demand for online teaching. The English language learning market is worth well over 8.4 billion euro. Bear in mind, this statistic is from 2021, so it has only increased, I am sure. Teaching English online is such a desirable job to do for a lot of people because it offers flexible living and working. Okay, as I'm sure you have all discovered, cutting out that commute, it can make a massive difference to our lives. But, you know, that's not to say that if you're teaching English online, you need to stay at home. Okay, you don't. Teaching English online gives you the opportunity to be a digital nomad. In other words, you can still travel, you can see the world, but you will teach online as you do so. So, you know, don't think that teaching online confines you to your home city or your home country. It absolutely does not, okay? You can still travel and work on the go. So, importantly, how, okay? How can you begin your career as an online English teacher? Well, really, you have two options, okay? Two main options. You can either work for an online school, or you can take your destiny into your own hands and be independent. Let's talk about working for a company first. So, if you have done any research into online teaching, I'm sure you have discovered that there are hundreds of options when it comes to online schools. Okay, that is online schools dedicated to teaching English as a foreign language. There are a lot of online schools based in Asia. Okay, there are a lot of online schools based in Europe, in South America, all over the world. Okay, lots of online schools dedicated to teaching children and adults English. At the TEFL Academy, we don't tend to recommend schools over other schools simply because we have not worked at all of the schools and, you know, we cannot recommend schools that we do not personally have experience of working for. But, you know, you do your research, okay? if you find an online school that has an interesting job position, hit up Google, okay? Find out everything you can about that school. Check out their website. Does it look professional? Is it updated? Does it have an FAQ section? Does it have contact details? Okay. Google reviews of that school. Do students and importantly other teachers have good things to say about it? You've got to do your research just as you would anything else. You will typically find that online schools have a pretty strict set of entry requirements. So you will need to read through those entry requirements, make sure you fit them. And chances are you will have to do an introductory video and a demo lesson. We talked about this extensively last week. So if you were at last week's webinar, you will know all about this. If you didn't make it last week, please go to our YouTube channel and you will find our webinar on introductory lessons and demo lessons. So when you work for a company, typically they will provide all of the material, okay? They will provide the teaching platform. They will give you everything you need, okay? Students will book lessons with the school and the school will allocate you your classes. Typically, you decide how much you want to work. An online school will typically offer a part-time contract or a full-time. Part-time could be anything from 15 to 25 hours, whereas full-time could be a full 35 to 40 hours. But, every online school will probably be a little different in that respect. So, be sure that you understand the hours you are committing to and, make sure not to overcommit yourself. Okay, that's really important. Normally with online schools, they will be very, very keen to get student feedback. So students will be rating you after every lesson as a rule. This can be a bit hard when you're just starting out. It can be a little intimidating to think of all of these students giving you stars out of 5 or marks out of 10. I would say please try not to get too hung up on the ratings, especially at the beginning when you're just finding your feet. When you get more experience and everything starts coming a bit more naturally, the ratings will tend to improve. And a lot of schools will offer bonuses based on ratings. So if you are consistently getting a really good rating from students, you may have the opportunity to get a boost of salary. Again, every online school will have their own bonus system. So make sure you know exactly what's going on with that. But yeah, as I said, try not to get too intimidated by the rating system at first. Okay, in time, you will get used to it. So when you're working for a company, they can either employ you directly or more likely, you will be working for them freelance. Okay, again, there are different ways that each online school will do this, but I have found that I've tended to work freelance. And then you just get paid into your bank account every 2 weeks or every month, whatever the system is. And it tends to work like clockwork, in my experience anyway. So if you do decide to go down the working for a school route, just be really sure that you are crystal clear on your contract, on the hours you'll be working, on your payment and method of payment, and on any bonus schemes that may be available to you. All right. I would say for me, the best thing about working for a company is that they provide materials. Okay. You don't have to do anything in terms of sourcing extra material. Everything is there in the form of slideshows. All you need to do is turn up and deliver the material that is already prepared. As you can imagine, that will save you a ton of time. Okay, but if you don't want to work for a school, okay, if you prefer to do your own thing and be in control of your own time, you can also decide to be independent. Okay, I'm sure you've all seen sites advertised online like different tutor platforms, for example, Preply. Okay. A tutor platform is basically a site where you can advertise yourself as a tutor. Okay, and students can go along to that site and look through all of the tutor profiles and, contact the tutor they would like to proceed with. So in other words, the school is not getting the students for you. Okay, you are trying to find them yourself. As you can imagine, you have to do a lot of marketing with this. Okay, you really need to get yourself advertised on as many different platforms as possible. I would also advise that you set up a LinkedIn account if you don't already have one. LinkedIn is an amazing way to network and to find new ways of marketing yourself, new places to market yourself, and general tips on how to launch your freelance career. If you can create your own website, that would also be amazing, because you can post your link all over the place and just get yourself out to as many people as you can. Social media is also super important. So, if you're into TikTok, if you're into Instagram, Facebook for a certain demographic, as many places as you can get yourself out there, do it. Okay. It can be difficult if you're not really into social media or marketing or publicizing yourself. You need to put in a lot of effort, especially at the beginning. Things definitely get easier as you become more established and as you get some students and as they leave you reviews, testimonials, etc. But yeah, it can be, very highly demanding energy-wise when you start out in the beginning, just getting the students in the first place. However, the huge payoff, well, literally, the huge payoff is that you get to set your own pay rates and your own schedule. Okay, there is no school dictating to you the hours you must do or how much you get paid or how many dollars extra you get per bonus. Okay, there is none of that. You are in control of your rates and your schedule. Okay, if you randomly want to work at, 1 a.m. in the night, your time, teaching students from other parts of the world who would be in the middle of their daytime, do it. You set your timetable. If you only want to work mornings, great. That's all you advertise for. So it can give you a massive amount of freedom. And I find that that is worth all of the effort involved in getting yourself set up initially. In terms of admin, it can be a bit more demanding because, again, the school isn't keeping count of everything. Okay, you are. So you have to keep your invoices together. You need to set up some sort of management system for all the students' data. It can be a little extra work for you in terms of admin. So you can see both methods have their very, very big advantages and their potential disadvantages. Okay. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just whatever suits you personally. Okay. In my experience and, regarding a lot of online teachers that I know, a lot of us started out working for schools just to find our feet and, ease into the teaching part of it, having materials provided, students provided, etc. And then once we got a bit of experience, we tended to then set ourselves up as freelance. But again, everybody's journey is different. It just depends whatever suits you best. So now that we've looked at how you can do online teaching, some of your options, let's look at other things you should think about before launching yourself into a full-time teaching English online career. Time zones. With online teaching, as you can imagine, you have students from all over the world. But some online schools tend to be based in particular regions. For example, I used to work for a school based in Japan, an online school based in Japan. Because of the time difference, that meant that I was working really late at night, which honestly suited me because I'm a real night owl. But if you do sign up with a school that has students from a particular or a specific region, make sure you're aware of the time difference and don't commit to anything unless, you have really thought about the reality of, working potentially antisocial hours. Okay. By the same token, if you are only willing to work during your daytime, you may find that you are eliminating a huge student market, whose daytime do not correspond to yours. So just some things to think about. Visas and documentation. Now, this isn't an issue if you're staying at home and you're working from your own home, your hometown, your home city, home country. But if you plan to be what we call a digital nomad, if you're planning to travel and work, you will have to consider having permission, to stay a certain amount of time in a particular country. Every country will have their own visa rules, but usually around the 3-month mark, you need to either move on or get a more specialized visa. So make sure you know how long you can stay in the country you are traveling in, before you have to leave. Cost of living is another huge consideration. As we all know now, I think no matter what country in the world we're in, the cost of living is just skyrocketing lately. So if you do plan on traveling, or in fact, even if you plan on staying at home, make sure that what you're earning is enough to justify covering the cost of living where you are. Okay. As much as we all love meeting our students, we love teaching, we love languages, we've got to make a living. So make sure you weigh up the potential cost of living versus your potential salary. If you are taking the traveling around while working option, be mindful of how much stuff you have and how much luggage. Okay, bear in mind that your technology is your workplace. Okay, your laptop is, or not a PC if you're traveling, I'd imagine, but your laptop is your livelihood. So make sure you don't have too much other stuff with you. Keep your packing very, very tight. Try to travel as light as you can. And really look after your laptop. Do not let it out of your sight. Connectivity. So if you're working from home in your own home country, you'll have a good idea of your internet speeds. If necessary, you can buy Wi-Fi boosters. You can, find a place in your house that has the strongest signal to work from. You'll need to make sure that you have a nice, fast, stable connection. If you're traveling around, this can be a little more difficult because you're always planning ahead. Like, okay, where am I going to teach from tomorrow? Okay, when I move to my next country, where am I going to work in the first few days I get there? Okay, you need to do a lot of planning ahead to make sure that you will have a Wi-Fi connection. I think the most important thing is, apart from the Wi-Fi connection, is you need to have a quiet place. So working from public libraries, working from coffee shops, etc., it may be okay, now and again as an emergency, but really try to have a guaranteed quiet zone to work from. Okay, now let's look at some tips for teaching English online. I guess the most important thing is to choose a platform and tools that you're going to use. If you are working for an online school, they will already have their own virtual school environment for you to teach from. Okay, so you will get your login details, you will go along to their online classroom and teach your lesson. Okay, you won't have any choice really over the platform or tools you use. However, if you are working as an independent, if you're going freelance, it is up to you to choose your own virtual teaching platform. So you may choose Google Classroom, maybe Moodle, maybe Canvas. Edmodo, I have a feeling, has gone out of business. So I must remove that from the slide. Blackboard, etc. is another platform. All of these are learner management systems. In other words, virtual schools where you log in, okay, you set up your classroom. Maybe they have whiteboards, maybe they have online tools, Yeah, they will have a system for keeping your students' data safe. Yeah, you will have to do a lot of research, okay, to find a platform that suits you best. If you don't want to go down the route of a learner management system, you can use the tried and tested video platforms such as Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, etc. I've done a lot of teaching over Zoom. I find it works really well. Same with Microsoft Teams. So, if you don't want to go down the whole learner management system route, okay, you can absolutely stick to the video conferencing sites. In terms of tools you can use to spice up your classes, you can consider using Canva. You can make really lovely worksheets, graphics, visuals, etc. on Canva. Kahoot is really fun. It's an interactive quiz. You decide the questions and possible answers. You make your quiz online, then you share a link with your students and they can do the quiz, but in the format of a game. It's really fun. Quizlet, it's another interactive tool that I use a lot when teaching. You can make interactive flashcards. Students can play matching games. Yeah, there's a lot of really fun stuff on Quizlet. Padlet is another really fun online tool. It's essentially an online notice board. So you can create a Padlet for your class. You can put up worksheets, you can put up audio, you can put up different discussion questions. And again, share the link of the Padlet with your students and, you can direct them over and back. And, it's a nice place to keep all the material together or to get them to make comments, to interact with the material, etc. So, it's not to say that everything needs to be like super exciting all of the time. Yeah, I find if I overuse Kahoot, for example, my students just get like, oh, Kahoot, okay. And, it loses its special, its specialness. I'm not even sure that's a word. But, while all of these tools are amazing, use them as appropriate and try to use them relatively sparingly. Okay, because if you use them all the time, they will just become ordinary. All right, but yeah, use a variety of them. So there's always something fun going on, but not always the same fun thing going on. Okay, let's look at some tips then for setting up your teaching environment. Okay, as we said, your laptop or PC is essentially your livelihood. So look after it, okay? Guard it with your life. Keep it in good condition. Try to get some good antivirus, try to keep it cleaned up. If anything happens with your laptop, you're in trouble as an online teacher. Again, check your internet connection, make sure it's fast enough. A lot of online schools during the interview will make you run a speed test in real time. So, they will need to see that your internet speed is fast enough. Consider investing in a webcam and headset. A lot of the newer models of laptops now, they have really good microphones, cameras, etc. built in. But, if you find a better external one, go for it. Okay, whatever makes it easiest for your students to see and hear you clearly. I cannot state this enough, everybody. Get a comfortable chair. Okay, you will be sitting for hours every day. So make sure you have a comfortable one. I'm currently using my husband's one and I'm not too happy about it. It's only been 25 minutes, but it's not my chair. So make sure you have a really comfortable chair. The angles, how high you need to be, the tilt, etc. Yeah, believe me, you will thank me. Your back will thank me for that. Try to have a professional background. Okay, I like a nice clean white background. But if you're teaching kids, you might prefer a more colorful background, maybe some posters, maybe some props. Try not to have anything too distracting or too messy in the background, as that will take your students' attention off of you and onto your background. The good thing about working at your laptop in front of a webcam, I find, is that you can litter your desk with all of your notes and materials, and the students aren't going to see all of that. So, feel free to have as many notes or whatever you need in front of you, okay, to remind you, maybe a lesson plan. Students aren't going to see any of it, so happy days. Okay. If you are working either for an online school or as an independent, you've got to think a lot about privacy and general online safety. Okay, GDPR, of course, is essential these days. We've got to keep our records, we've got to maintain our records, but maintain them safely and securely. Personal data, try not to share anything too revealing about yourself in terms of your location, where you are, etc., and encourage your students not to do so either. Sharing photos and videos. Really, we should not be screenshotting our students. We should not be videoing our students unless we have a very good reason to do so and parental permission if they are minors. But really, there should be no need for it. Okay. You do not want to get yourself into trouble by taking screenshots, sharing videos, etc. Even if you want to use it in your publicity material, okay, make sure you have written permission in advance. Tell your students what you're videoing, when it begins, when it ends. And of course, if you are involved with minors, you need parental permission. Okay. Honestly, I would not do it. And then in terms of bullying and behavior, I'm sure you're all very sadly aware of the rise of cyberbullying these days. So, when you meet your students for the first time, make sure that you establish your ground rules and, what behavior will be acceptable and what behavior is not. Again, try not to let students give out any personal information, such as phone numbers, emails, etc. Okay, and that way we can hopefully prevent any cyberbullying from developing. In terms of actual classes, do try to create a routine, okay, just as you would in a face-to-face classroom. A routine helps students feel safe, okay? It helps them feel like they're in a familiar environment and that they are in control of what they're doing. So you may do a certain thing at the beginning of every class, okay? You may have a certain way of, asking them how they're doing or what they've done that day. You may always start with a short game, revising the previous lesson. Whatever it is, just try to begin the class the same way and try to end the class the same way, just so that the students feel like they're in a comfortable environment. Try to make your instructions very fast and, well, not very fast, but fast and easy, okay? If you have a routine going on and you tend to do the same format, not necessarily the same tasks because that would be boring, but when you tend to follow the same format, students will know what to do and it will make your instructions faster and easier. Always try to do a warmer, maybe some images. Tell the students what the objectives for the class are. Make sure they know what they are learning about, okay? Like today's lesson is about clothes, okay? Or today's lesson is about animals. Okay, again, that helps them feel more secure in what they're doing. You might, at the end of class, you might set homework, okay? Or you might give them a summary of the lesson. Yeah, so creating a routine like this will definitely help your students a lot. And you, of course. We mentioned instructions before. Well, instructions can always be a bit difficult for new teachers and for not so new teachers. And especially online where you don't have that, you can't always gauge whether they've understood or not, okay? And you can't use your body language as much to get your instructions across. So I would say give your instructions verbally, but also written, okay? Write a quick summary of the instructions in the chat box so that even if students haven't understood you, they can read them. Ask for chat box confirmation. Okay, so after you've given your instructions, you might say, okay, everybody, if you have understood, put a thumbs up in the chat box. Okay. You can also, of course, ask your instruction checking questions, like, so what do you have to do? How long do you have? Etc. Simultaneous feedback. Okay. So, you can remind your students that if they have any questions about the instructions at any time in the task, just type their question in the chat box. Okay. You can help them out just as you would in a face-to-face classroom. If you're sharing links to, for example, your Padlet or to a Kahoot, or if you want to share a worksheet, use the chat box. Okay. Just pop it in there and they can access whatever it is you need them to access. So there are just some ideas for making instructions a little easier for your students. Finally, in terms of classroom management, here are some tips I will give you. By its very nature, online teaching is much easier to manage than physical classes in terms of classroom management. Okay, so there are no students down the back of the class chatting or making animal noises or throwing things. Okay, you eliminate all of the bad behavioral aspects of classroom management. If you do get a student who is blowing up the chat box with irrelevant stuff, you can mute them. Okay, that's always nice. You can mute them or very often give them a timeout. So in terms of classroom management, you have a lot more tools at your disposal. Okay, it is genuinely much less difficult than face-to-face classrooms. That said, there can be the flip side where you don't communicate with your students enough, okay, and that you find that your students aren't engaging. So just to finish, here are some tips for student engagement. Because it can be hard to engage on a screen, and because we do have so many options of, managing any undesirable behavior, you really have to go that extra mile with personality and engagement. Okay, you need to jump through the screen and engage with your students. Be larger than life. It may feel a little artificial at first, it may feel a little forced, but you have got to transmit all of that energy through the screen. Okay, just switch on your mega personality and go for it. Okay, don't let your energy dip, because if your energy dips, you can guarantee that their energy is going to dip too, and that is what we never want. Use the chat box. Okay, as we said, be active on it. There's a really fun random name spinner that I use a lot. It's called, I think it's called Wheel of Names. So it's like an online tool where you can put your student's name on a wheel. Okay, then you just click a button and it will stop at a random name on the wheel. Okay, and students can see this. You can share this on your screen. And, that helps keep students watching, listening out for their names, participating, etc. Okay. That said, if you're doing a grammar task or a speaking task, you as the teacher have to learn to embrace the silence. Okay. Give students time to think, give them time to process. Yeah, don't rush in and try to answer their question, or don't try to rush in and fill the silence immediately. Okay, if they ask you a question, throw it out to the group and give them a moment to think. Okay, embrace the silence where necessary. Yeah, and in times where silence is not necessary, amp up that personality to keep students engaged. So now it is time for me to embrace the silence for a moment. I know that was a lot of information in a very short time. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box and we will run through. While you are typing in your questions, I'm going to take a look at all of the comments and see where everybody is. That's always my favorite bit. Okay. I wonder, do we have anyone from Ireland in today? So we have Italy, South Africa, Somerset, how wonderful. Brighton, Good. Lots in from South Africa today. It's wonderful to see you all. You have Canada, Iran, Spain. Oh, I lived in Spain for 10 years, Praveen. It's a beautiful place. Switzerland, Wiltshire, Alabama. Hello, Joe. Hi, Elena. Oh, so great to see you all. Tatiana from Serbia. This is my last webinar. Oh, no. Oh, we'll miss you, Tatiana. But remember, go to our YouTube channel and you can still watch. Okay, you can still watch all of the webinars. Just maybe not be here live. All right, so Victoria, I see a question. Let's have a look. If you were working for a school, will you need to arrange your own taxes or will the company deduct that beforehand? Amazing question, Victoria. So as I said before, the huge likelihood is that you will be working freelance, which means that you are responsible for all of your taxes. Yeah, it was a huge baptism of fire for me. I moved back to Ireland about 10 years ago, yeah, having always been employed. So when I started working as a self-employed teacher, yeah, taxes. Yeah, so you need to get yourself set up with revenue in whatever your country is, and you will need to file your taxes every year. Okay, yeah, it's an extra level of admin that I know all of us could live without, but unfortunately it has to be done. It would be very, very, very rare that an online school would pay your taxes. Okay, but you know, that's another thing to clarify in the interview. Okay, you know, that is a really, really important question to ask. All right, so thank you, Victoria. Okay. And we have here, are there any specific platforms or online tools that you would recommend avoiding? Honestly, Victoria, no. Do you know, I mean, it's very, I find these things are very much down to personal preference. So, you know, while I love teaching on Zoom, I know other teachers who don't. But I would still, you know, I would still recommend Zoom because personally, I really like it, you know. So there is nothing offhand that I can think I would avoid. You know, just try everything. You never know with these things until you actually use them. So, you know, try it. If you don't like it, find something else. All right. It's very much personal preference, I find. Okay, Victoria, can you use one of those virtual masking backgrounds? Absolutely. I don't see why not. You know, most platforms will allow you the option to blur your screen. Personally, as we just said about personal preference, personally, I don't like to do that. I don't like being surrounded by the blur. You know, I would prefer to just have a neutral background. But, you know, again, as I said, personal preference. If you find it works well for you, go for it. Why not? All right. So, hello, Caton. Can you please advise what sort of headset you are using? Well, Caton, I am not. I am relying on my laptop microphone. But if you do find that you want to use a headset, you know, just the normal ones with the ear pads and the microphone, you know, it doesn't need to be anything fancy by any means. Just, yeah, your headset and your microphone, and you'll be good to go. You know, a lot of the headsets, they are USB driven now. So, you know, you literally just plug them into your USB and off you go. Okay, it's very, very simple. All right. So, hello, Victoria again. What is the best way to establish ground rules with students who have a low level of English or of a low English level? I would say, Victoria, just very, very simply, okay, just keep it to words and pictures, okay. For example, if you are, you know, if you want to remind them that, you know, they can use the chat box for questions, you know, you can take a screen grab of the chat box and show it up, okay, on the screen. So you would say something like, write questions here. Okay, literally keep your rules as short, using as few words as you can, and use images of what you want them to do. Okay, demonstrate what you want them to do. Okay, if you want to draw some signs yourself, if you're any good at drawing, or if you want to print out some signs, you can just hold them up in front of the screen. Okay, keep your body language very clear. For example, don't do this, okay, or do this, okay. Just basically simplify them as much as you can, back them up with images, and back them up further with body language. Okay. All right. Eric, hello. Question for Q&A. I announced my location as Toronto, Canada in my video for Priply. I wanted to advertise my standard Canadian accent. Why is this such a faux pas? Great question, Eric. So, as I'm sure you know, Eric, there are just as many English teachers that are not from native English speaking countries as there are teachers from native speaking countries, okay, if not more. So at the moment, there is a huge and very justified movement going on in the world of EFL to end the discrimination, as we call it, the accent discrimination based on native speaking teachers and non-native speaking teachers. So I would imagine that that is why that would be considered a bit of a faux pas. Okay. There should be absolutely no discrimination between people from native speaking English countries and not. Okay. That does not make a person a good teacher or not. Okay. Like some of the most amazing teachers I've ever seen have not been from native English speaking countries. So yeah, I would say that that is why you might get some backlash from that. So, it's just something to be mindful of. Some students will actively seek out a student from a native English speaking country. But, just be mindful. We do not want to propagate any sense of discriminatory practice against English teachers who are not from native English speaking countries. All right, interesting question, Eric. Thank you. Okay. So hello, Jay. How do you keep students from taking a screenshot or video of you? How do you protect your own privacy, and in particular, protect yourself from AI? Oh, Jay, such a good question. I know I'm saying that for all of the questions, but they genuinely are. Jay, this is such a problem because you are really trading on the goodwill of your students. Like at the beginning, like in your first class with them, tell them, okay? Like, please do not screenshot me, do not record me, unless you have my permission. I've never found a way to enforce that. If you're working for an online school, you probably have more protection against that, as it will be in official terms and conditions. But generally, I find that we are just hoping for their goodwill and cooperation here. I'm afraid I don't have a definitive answer on how to protect yourself, rather than just to make it clear that you do not want to be screenshotted or recorded. If anybody else has an idea for that, who maybe knows more about this whole field, please pop your answer in the chat box. Okay. Victoria, what methods could students use to cheat on my lessons and tests? Any advice? Oh gosh, cheating. It's not something I have considered very much, actually, because, the classes tend to be quite short. Students don't tend to do tests in class. You would maybe give them for homework. I suppose there is always the option that they would cheat, for sure. But yeah, it's actually not something I have encountered before, Victoria, honestly. I guess one way that you could make sure that they're not teaching is to do oral exams as much as you can. Okay, so maybe some speaking exams where you're talking to them, for 30 seconds or 1 minute at a time, or you're asking them questions in real time. But yeah, apart from that, Victoria, I'm not sure. I must admit, it's not something I've ever considered. But yeah, I will have a think about it. All right, thank you, Victoria. Very thought-provoking question. Okay, so Afro Eskimo, what's the largest number of students per online class you'd recommend? Well, again, this is a personal preference thing, but for me, 12 would probably be the maximum that I would like in my class, because I find that any more than 12 and it's harder to involve everybody. Okay, it's harder to engage everybody because, you know, you want to give everyone more or less equal attempts of engagement and like equal time to participate and to speak in the lesson. But that said, I'm sure there are classes with more than 12 students out there, and I'm sure teachers are still doing a great job. So there isn't really like any official limit, I guess. I know that online schools tend to cap their classes around 8 or 10. Again, if you do interview for an online school, that's a really good question to ask. Okay, you know, what would your maximum number of students be? But yeah, 12 for me. Ideally 8. I mean, for me, 8, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's online, 8 is just the magic. The magic number. Okay, enough to, you know, have things going on and a bit of buzz and a bit of interaction, but not so many that people start getting lost. All right. Oh, Wexford, Ireland. Yes, CA. My mum is from Wexford. Beautiful part of the country. I love it down there. So very welcome. Okay. So Malasedi, hello. Where can I find missed live recordings? So Malasedi, if you go to YouTube and you type in the TEFL Academy, you will find our channel and all of the webinar recordings are there. Okay, going back years at this stage. So yeah, YouTube, search for the TEFL Academy and check out our channel. Everything is there. Okay. Alan, hello. I have heard some frightening stories of very poor wages for TEFL online marketing, for TEFL, for online TEFL market being saturated. Yeah, Alan, you know, some schools are offering really, really low wages. All you can do is avoid them. Okay. There are well-paid jobs out there, so keep searching until you find them. I find that when schools offer incredibly low wages, they only do that because they know that somebody will accept it. Yeah, so you can play your bit by not accepting it. Because, you know, if teachers decided not to accept these insultingly low prices, schools would have to up their game. Okay, so while, you know, there may be schools out there, all right, that like charge ridiculous or that offer ridiculous wages, keep looking until you find better. Okay. All right. So Valentina, if you want to teach there, you must have a lot of certificates. Oh, okay. This must be about a separate chat that you have happening. Okay. So hello, QT. For online schools, are they strict with having a degree or will the TEFL certification be enough? So if you're applying for an online school, QT, as we said before, check the entry requirements. Okay, some schools might require a degree, some mightn't. Okay, but chances are they will all require TEFL certification. The degree thing isn't so much of an issue online because, you know, if you're working from home, you won't need to apply for work visas, etc. Normally when schools require degrees, it is just because of bureaucracy, okay, for processing work visas. And that doesn't tend to be relevant for working online from home. So yeah, check out their entry requirements and see. Okay, so Christina, I live in Donegal. Woo! Yes. Oh, look at all these Irish people in the room. Love it. Oh, I was there last summer, Christina. I love it. I worked there one summer when I was younger. Everybody, Ireland is tiny. This is why everybody in Ireland knows something about some other part of Ireland somebody is from. All right, welcome, Christina. All right. So, hello, Sayedul. I'm an experienced teacher, PGC in London. I'm doing this TEFL course and would like to do Delta later. Oh, awesome. Yeah, Delta is something else. Delta is tough, but it's well worth doing. I did mine back in 2015. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful stepping stone. Okay, Kaiten, do you also conduct your classes without headset? I'm asking because it looks more natural without seeing a headset on your head, and I can hear you quite well. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I have faith in my specific laptop. I know that the sound is quite good. So that is why I'm comfortable not using a headset. But, you know, if, for example, one of you told me that you couldn't hear me so clearly, or if you heard a buzz, or if there was some issue, I would definitely consider using a headset. So, you know, if you don't use a headset, check with your students during your first class. Okay, ask them if they can hear you, or if they can hear you clearly, or if they'd prefer you to use a headset. You know, it's always worth just having one nearby anyway, just in case. Okay, but yeah, just because I know my laptop, I'm not using one. All right, thank you, Kaiten. All right, Victoria, would it be worth sending a copy link of the ground rules to your students? Yeah, great idea. And getting them to sign or confirm they understand them. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Yeah, I guess sign. How could they sign it though? If you send it to them online, might be a bit difficult. Like, there shouldn't be any need for you to be collecting their signatures on anything. What you could do, I guess, is, you know, go through it in class, send them the document, give them a moment to read the document, and then ask them all to thumbs up in the chat box that they've read and understood. Okay, I think signing and returning could get a little admin heavy, and really, yeah, I would not like to have a collection of their signatures. All right, thank you, Victoria. Okay, Jocelyn, hi. My friend completed the TEFL course in 2020 but hasn't done any teaching. Would you recommend going back over the course, or is there a refresher course to do before getting a job teaching? Well, I think, Jocelyn, that your friend would probably no longer have access to the course if their enrollment has expired. But if they have taken any notes or any, you know, if they downloaded any documents, yeah, absolutely, it'd be worth having a look through. Or tell her to go watch the webinars. Okay, give her the YouTube link, and yeah, tell her to watch some webinars. We have them on so many different topics, from classroom management to teaching grammar to teaching vocabulary. So yeah, point her in the direction of the webinars. That would be the best bet. All right. So Afro Eskimo, what are some of your best travel destinations for digital nomad TESOL teachers, cost-wise, climate and time zone? Well, again, Afro Eskimo, it all comes down to personal preference and where you like to be. As I said, my main experience, I've taught in a lot of countries, but my longest experience was in Spain. And for me, that is a great country to live in and to travel in. It's a great place to be in general. If you're not in one of the bigger cities, the cost of living is still relatively manageable. So yes, Spain, Italy, Greece. Okay, if you're not in the main cities where things are mega expensive, would all be destinations that I would enjoy. That said, I know a lot of my nomad teaching colleagues. A lot of them have gone to Asia or South America, and they are just all having an incredible time. Southeast Asia, especially for cost of living, is still pretty accessible. So yeah, I know a lot of teachers who have gone there. But really, personal preference. There is no right or wrong. Okay. Larisha, hello. Will TEFL teachers have to mark exams themselves, and will the online schools set out regulations on being an examiner? Yeah. Well, if it's an online school, yeah, they will give you, what you need to do. Honestly, online schools are not that particular about exams, in my experience. Like, I've worked online a long time and I don't really remember ever doing exams per se, unless it was exam preparation, like a Cambridge class or something, in which case you can do all of the speaking and listening exams live in class with the students. But when it comes to reading, writing, and use of English, grammar, vocabulary, etc., you are relying on them to do it themselves outside of the classroom. So I think if it's like an official exam, like Cambridge or IELTS or something, you can pretty much count on your students to do it like with their own genuine effort, because when they do the real exam in real live exam conditions in an examination center, they will not be able to cheat. Okay. So yeah, if it's an online school, yeah, they will tell you how to do it. They will set you up. Otherwise, as I said to Victoria earlier, we're trading on their goodwill to not cheat. Honestly, though, guys, it is not an issue I have come across. I want to say ever. Okay, but yeah, it's a great question for your online school. Okay. So Afro Eskimo, what's the best way of ending your lessons on time without being awkward or coming off as rude? Oh, yeah. Well, I always find, Afro Eskimo, that we as teachers are far more conscious about being rude than our students are. Okay. I mean, our students know that they have, for example, an hour-long lesson booked. So, when it's coming to 58, 59 minutes, they should know. It's like, okay, our time is running out. This is going to end soon. Normally what I would do is, if we're doing an activity and there's like a natural gap, there's a natural lull in the conversation, or we're changing task, and, I'll take a look down and say, okay, 10 minutes. So, okay, everybody, we only have 10 minutes left. This is our last activity. So, try to get in a time check before you start the last thing. And that way you've planted it in their minds that, okay, this is the last thing. It's going to end soon. Does that make sense? That is certainly what I would do. But, don't worry too much about coming across as rude when ending the lesson, because they know they know it has to end and it can't go on forever. All right. So thank you, Afro Eskimo. So Dikalidi, is there an age limit? Nope, not that I have ever seen. Absolutely not. Any age at all. Okay, Alan, what are the best countries to teach online? Gosh, Alan, as long as you have stable internet connection, like anywhere, whatever country you like to be in, go for it. That is the joy of the job. As long as you can guarantee an internet connection, you can be literally anywhere. All right. Great. So, hello, Tanya. What program are you using for the stream to highlight questions? Oh, so Tanya, I am using Streamyard. I love Streamyard. I know I said before I love Zoom, and I do, but I really love Streamyard. So yeah, check it out. It could be a good option. It just has, loads of functions, okay, to highlight questions, comments, etc. It's not anything extra special, okay? It's just all built into Streamyard. All right, so everybody, oh no, look, we have like 10 seconds left and I already see so many more questions. I'm really sorry. I'm not going to have time for everything, but you know what? Send your questions along to tutor support. Okay. Send a ticket to tutor support and ask whatever I did not have time to answer today. Okay. And, we have a team on tutor support 24/7. We will get answers to you. So thank you all so much for coming. I'm really sorry I didn't get to all the questions. I hate when that happens. As I said, all of our recordings, all of our webinars will can be found on our YouTube site. Okay, pop along to the TEFL Academy channel to find all of them there, going back years. Today's webinar will be posted on Monday or Tuesday. Okay. Now, just before I go, I have a favor to ask you. In our constant quest to improve, we would love you to take a moment to fill in a short questionnaire about this webinar. If you have any topics that you would like us to cover, or if you have any potential suggestions for improvements, please let us know. All feedback is so gratefully accepted. You know, like any teacher, any group of teachers, we just want to be better. So you can either scan the QR code, or I will pop the link address into the chat box. All right, there we go. So everyone, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Saturday to spend this hour with us. It's been wonderful to see you all, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Okay, see you again soon. Bye.